He was up to something. And he was in Madrid, and he had an apartment in number 6 Calle Goya, which is quite a nice place in Madrid. And it was the top floor of this apartment block. I went up to Madrid to do some Christmas shopping and stayed at Dad's apartment. And we went out to see a film, Full Metal Jacket, and he started telling me stuff. And we were walking down the road, and he said, "That's where we keep the money." And I just went, "What? Pardon?" And that started something amazing. It was like lighting a fuse, you know, Mission Impossible. Ding, 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 ding. And it was amazing because it started a story of questions from me. You know, what do you mean the money? And it just led to, effectively, this roughly about just over $200 million in cash. But this was a smaller amount of money compared to the total amount that he had been helping Don Pablo get out of the country. Because it turns out that the so-called head of the Medellin cartel was actually tucking money away for himself. The missing millions are not what the world has been looking for. What the missing millions are Don Pablo Escobar's money that he's been tucking away. You know, none of his family or his cartel people know about this. He's been tucking away this money, and he's been using the MI6 agent to tuck it away for him. And the MI6 agent has been doing that to gain his trust. And the mutual arrangement has worked nicely. Unfortunately, he gets nicked, Don Pablo, and so the MI6 agent is left with all this money. And so he starts to hide it away in different forms and different ways. And what was left, he showed me in Madrid, and I physically touched it. So I don't know, but I may be the only person alive today that has seen the real Escobar missing millions. It's possible, quite likely I would have thought, which I think in itself is quite cool. I mean, it's a bit freaky really, but I know that he was tucking it away, and this was the last bits. So when you think the last bits were 210 million, and this whole warehouse must have been full of money, but it's not all hidden in cash. Dad was a man of mysteries. When I say dad, I'm talking about my adopted father, who I always refer to as dad. One thing he would never have wanted me to do is be robbed or to have a problem, you know, so he wrote down some coordinates for me to later find the money. But unfortunately, they were a bit too complicated for me to work out. On his deathbed, he reached into his Dax jacket, hanging on the wall by the hospital bed, Walton Cottage Hospital in Surrey, Walton-on-Thames. He reaches for his Dax jacket. I describe this chapter in the book. It's a very emotional chapter because it's the death of the man that I held up to be a beacon of decency. And he reaches for this jacket, and he pulls out his slimline diary, and as he does it, his hand's not working properly because he's got motor neuron disease, and a slip of paper falls out onto the bed, which I'm sure now, when I actually think about it, he probably didn't want me to know about till he died. He's probably giving me his diary, you know. But his diary has full of phone numbers, of all who's who. I've even gotten his diary, you know, a telephone number with the word Escobar next to it, which you've seen. The piece of paper that fell out onto the bed that day is seemingly insignificant piece of paper, and really, it's just an A4 piece of paper, which is a letter from the Home Office. I'll read it. And it says, "In accordance with your recent request, a copy is enclosed of the form, the application for registration as a citizen of the United Kingdom and colonies." So they've written to the Home Office to get my passport. And it's dated 23rd of August 1967. And there's some written things here to say what they sent off and so on. So really it's just a bit of nothing. Little number here, you know, Home Office. And then he signals to me to turn it over. So I turn it over, and on the back there's just some scribbly writing, blue writing on it. It doesn't mean anything to me. He tells me this is where the money is, and then about half an hour later he died. Imagine that.
You've spent the last 23 years trying to crack that
code. I haven't cracked the code. But what I have done is I've got a long way down the road, and I understand what it is, what it means, And I've learned that only I can actually properly fathom out some of it, because it's also about my dad's life and what he was doing and what he was doing, where he was doing it and how he was doing it. And this book is a pointer to all that. And you have to read between the lines and look at some of the pictures and see where we were and what we were doing, and that helps a lot. There's some significant things in the book that will tell you that. What we've done with the sun, we're going to talk about what some of the lines of code mean and develop the meaning of what Dad was doing by writing these codes. You know, why write it in code? Why not just say, here you go, mate, here's the money? And we're going to develop that whole issue, but only in the sun. In the book is all the code that's on here. But what's not in the book is what this code means. As far as it is possible to discover what this code means for me at the moment, I'm going to discuss that only in the sun. So sun readers will be able to come on this journey with me and see if we can find the money together.